Just so happened, we had an opening, and I said, you want to talk about, would you like to try that for real? He said, I'll see you Monday morning. He's been there ever since.
Yeah, well, good for him.
Can't get rid of him.
Yeah, I see him, as I told you, he's a Navy vet, I think. So I see him at a
Yeah.
lot of veterans events. Yeah, the Ridgeview High School holds a big veterans.
Actually, you shouldn't start the 1 minute.
Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to today's candidate forum for Redmond Mayor and City Council, sponsored by the Central Oregon Association of Realtors and KTVZ News Channel 21. I'm Tyler Neese, COR's Government Affairs Director. Just a few housekeeping notes before I introduce our moderator and we hear from the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes to respond to questions from the moderator, and 1 minute for rebuttal. We have a timer up here that the candidates and moderator can see to help keep us on track. We will still allow some time for questions with the candidates in this format, so if you have a question you'd like to ask, please type it in the comments on Facebook and we'll get to as many as we can as time allows. We'll also ask candidates to limit their response during the Q&A to 2 minutes. All right, that's more than enough housekeeping. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Lee Anderson. Lee Anderson is probably a familiar face for most of you as you've seen him nightly on KTVZ News Channel 21, where he's an anchor. Lee has been with KTVZ since 1996, where he has been an anchor, producer, reporter, and news director. Lee is a graduate of Indiana State University, and we're excited to have him as our moderator today. With that, I will hand it over to Lee.
Well, thank you very much, Tyler, and thank you folks for tuning in this afternoon, and thank you candidates for being here for this Central Oregon Association of Realtors Candidate Forum. We have two of the three mayoral candidates for the city of Redmond here today with us. On my far right is Charles Baer, and to my immediate right is George Endicott, who is, of course, the incumbent mayor of Redmond. Okay, fellas, we flipped a coin earlier in this before this forum, and Charles Baer won. He'll be going first today. We want to make a disclosure here about, first of all, the Central Oregon Association of Realtors PAC. It has supported George Endicott in this particular race. And another point of full disclosure, I have nothing to do with the Central Oregon Association of Realtors, but I've been honored by being invited to host this candidate forum, so that's my association with it. Okay, as I said, Charles Baer, you won the coin toss. We're going to get started. You'll have 2 minutes to tell us about yourself and why you want to be mayor of Redmond. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Charles Baer.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Central Oregon Association of Realtors for putting on this forum today. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mayor George Endicott for being a fantastic mayor of the city of Redmond. I'd like to thank Tanner Robertson for also running for mayor and inspiring a new, younger generation of voters to be politically active and politically motivated. My name is Charles Baer. I'm running for the mayor of Redmond, Oregon in 2020, and I'm very excited to be part of this campaign, and I think that Redmond is a great town with an incredibly bright future, and I'd love to be a part of that future. And I think that Redmond, Oregon, as I've said many times in this campaign, has a wonderful opportunity to lead the state of Oregon and the nation of America and the whole world in what I believe are the two most important political issues of this millennium. Number one is environmentalism, and number two is transparency. Now, if I'm elected mayor of Redmond, I will work very hard to make Redmond, Oregon, a leader, a world leader in those two issues, because I think it's time for Oregonians to stand up and to lead by example. And I think it's time for Oregonians to chart their own future. And I believe that it's time for us as Oregonians to stand up and say what we really believe in and to present a plan on how we're going to accomplish that for us and for America and for the whole planet. And thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Charles Baer, thank you very much. Mayor George Endicott, you now have 2 minutes. Tell us about yourself and why you want to continue to be mayor of Redmond.
Well, thank you, Lee, and to Cora for the opportunity to come and speak this afternoon to the group. I also want to thank you, as you heard, that I was endorsed by Cora, and so thank you for that. I've been mayor for Redmond. I've been mayor of Redmond for 12 years, and during that time, we've seen a lot of change. We've seen what I hope all of you think are a lot of vast improvements in Redmond. We went through a pretty severe recession about a decade ago, and I was mayor during that whole time, and we came through that really in very good shape. And that was because we had very conservative fiscal leadership leading up to that time, and have continued that as one of the hallmarks of our whole tenure in this city council, and even before I was mayor, that idea of conservative fiscal leadership kept us in very good stead. So we look at today. Let's fast forward to the COVID and what's going on right now. If you look again at the city and where we stand, our whole approach to handling the pandemic has been pretty clear. We've handed out over 30,000 sets of PPE to some of the businesses downtown. We have met with over 300 businesses to talk to them about what their needs were. The state has given us several $1,000s. The federal government has given us many thousands of dollars. We're going through another round right now of trying to provide funding for some of the businesses in town. I meet with them all the time. I get calls, and we just care about the community, the whole council. We care about how the city's run. We have a great team at the city, and I am just excited about another term as your mayor. Thank you very much. Please vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Endicott. Let's begin the questions, shall we, gentlemen? And we're going to begin with Charles Baer. Here's the question today, Charles. Number one, what are your top 3 goals or priorities if elected mayor? And how do you keep other issues and competing priorities from diverting your focus away from these areas?
Well, thank you for the question. The number one priority I would have as mayor of Redmond would be to continue and to build on the great success that George and others have created for Redmond. Redmond is a great town, and I would work very hard, and my number one priority would be to continue to keep Redmond as a prosperous, safe, healthy city. And I would do that. I would leave everything the same because I think Redmond's doing great. So I would just leave everything the same and not change anything because I think George has done a great job and his people have done a great job. So that would be number one, is just to stay the course that way. That would be number one. Number two would be, as I said, concentrate on an environmental policy so that the city of Redmond can lead with an environmental policy. And number three would be to concentrate on a transparency policy. So number one would be to just make sure Redmond stays a prosperous, healthy, safe city by not, I don't think it's broke, so I'm not going to try and fix it. Number two would be environmentalism, leadership. And number three would be transparency. Now, when I say transparency, I'm talking about government fiscal transparency. And if I'm elected mayor of Redmond, I will make sure that all of the financial transactions that the city of Redmond makes will be made public online immediately so that everybody can see where the money's going, who's getting it, how much they're getting, when they're getting it, what they're doing with it. And that could very well be happening right now, which would be fantastic. And when that is happening to my satisfaction, I will do the same thing for Deschutes County, and then for the state of Oregon, and then for the country, and then for the world. Because I feel that all people in the world deserve total 100% government fiscal transparency. And I feel that if the people of Redmond, Oregon can bring this gift of transparency to the world, then we should. And I think we can, and I think we will. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Baer. Same question to you, Mayor Endicott. What are your top 3 goals or priorities if elected mayor, and how do you keep other issues and competing priorities from diverting your focus away from these areas?
Well, thanks for that question. Actually, I have 4, but to respond to Charles, we already have that financial exposure, Charles, so thank you for that. And we're getting ready to release an upgraded version. I actually have 4 goals: public health, public safety, infrastructure, and economic development. I have run on those for my entire career as Redmond's mayor, and I will continue to focus on those. Public health, of course, is clean water, a great and running wastewater system, which we do have, and we're talking right now about greatly expanding that to handle our growth. Secondly is public safety. That's our police, and our police do an outstanding job in Redmond. I continue to fully support them, and we just see them as a professional force that we have no problems that we've been able to discern on any of the issues you hear going around the country, to include like Portland. In fact, ours is the only police force in Central Oregon that has body and car cameras here. So then infrastructure, which is roads, pipes. Our roads have what's called a pavement condition index of 82, which is above the national standard. We will continue that. And then finally is economic development. It is so important that we are able to create and continue with our living wage jobs. Any economist will tell you, and I happen to be a recovering labor economist, will tell you about you have multiplier factors that apply whenever you're paying living wage jobs. And in fact, here's a quick announcement. We heard this morning that a professional football team is coming to play in Redmond, Oregon. Thank you.
Well, that certainly piques our interest a little bit. Thank you, George. Maybe get to that a little bit later. But until then, we've got another question. And once again, Charles Baer, you'll go first on this. This is question number 2. Oregon is in the midst of an affordable housing crisis, and Redmond is no exception, as some people in the community struggle to find an affordable home. If elected mayor, how would you lead on this issue, and what new solutions would you propose? Charles?
Well, we have a real, we don't have a lot of affordable housing in Redmond, and we don't have a lot of affordable housing there, and we need more. And we're making more. And a lot of people think we're not making enough affordable housing fast enough. But when I look at Redmond and when I look at Central Oregon, I see the whole community making houses as fast as we possibly can. I mean, houses are going up at light speed, and we're developing Redmond we're making houses in Redmond as fast as we can. And, I don't see how we could possibly make houses in Redmond any faster. And yes, there's a very lack of affordable housing in Redmond, and yes, people are being priced out in Redmond, but it seems that the solution is to just make more houses. Well, that's what we're doing, and if we need to make more apartments, or if we need federal money to subsidize housing, we probably have that, but everybody wants more affordable housing, and I think we're working towards that. But I don't see a day when there'll be enough affordable housing for everyone, and I think people who think that there's going to be one day there'll be affordable housing for everybody, I think they are a little naive, and especially in places that are as desirable to live as Central Oregon.
All right, Mr. Baer, thank you very much. Same question to you, Mr. Endicott. Oregon is in the midst of an affordable housing crisis, and Redmond is no exception, as some people in the community struggle to find an affordable home. If re-elected as mayor, how would you lead on this issue, and what new solutions would you propose?
Well, I think I'm already leading on the issue in terms of affordable housing. We have 2 major projects underway right now. Myself and Commissioner Henderson went to Salem last year to get a bill passed the legislature and signed into law by the governor, which granted us a pilot project to build 485 homes, half of which will be under that term affordable, which has to do with the cost of living for the people that would buy those homes. So of the 485, approximately half will be affordable. The reason Mr. Henderson was there is that the county donated the 40 acres where those houses will be built. And we're really excited about getting started on that. We're doing the land use process right now. The thing the law did was allowed us to bypass some of the state regulations to kickstart that project. The second one we have right now is that called the Midtown Housing Project, where we're building 47 affordable homes down in the middle of town off 5th Street next to what's called a grocery outlet, one of the grocery stores in town. So that one is actually under construction as we speak. Another area that is being discussed is the system development charges and how those are charged. Now, we have about half of the SDCs that Bend has, and yet a lot of the builders argue they're still too high. So we're visiting that issue. Finally, again, an economic principle, supply and demand. One of the big arguments in the state of Oregon is, do we go up or out? And by that means, do we expand our urban growth boundaries and our city limits, or do you build taller buildings? Again, I happen to believe we should go out, but there are many others that believe we should go up. So those are still areas that are being discussed across the state of Oregon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, George. Charles, would you like a minute to respond to that?
No, thank you.
All right. George, I don't think you need to rebut yourself then.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to question number 3 then. Charles, Redmond is growing, and population estimates show that trend is not likely to change anytime soon. What does smart growth mean to you?
Well, smart growth means a lot of things to me. In regards to the last topic, yes, I think we should grow up and out, but I'm certainly in favor of growing up. No pun intended. So, I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Well, I'll repeat it. Redmond is growing, and population estimates show that trend is not likely to change anytime soon. So what does smart growth mean to you?
Okay, so smart growth means to me that when Redmond was growing back in the old days, they made a few mistakes. So smart growth would be not to repeat those mistakes. People built too close to Highway 97. That was a mistake. So smart growth means don't repeat that mistake. When Redmond makes new roads, have big sidewalks on both sides of those roads. Smart growth means that we have lots of parks and lots of parking. And so smart growth, again, would be to grow up. And in terms of infrastructure, to make sure that we have a giant transit center right next to the airport. And that when we talk about 10 and 20 years down the road, we have a bypass from Terrebonne to Sun River through Alfalfa with light rail. And that's what smart growth means to me, is that we're looking towards the future and we're doing things correctly. All streets have sidewalks on both sides. We have an opportunity now to make large parks. We should take that opportunity before developers buy up all the land and we don't have that opportunity anymore. I'll give you one example. Klein Falls. If you go to Klein Falls on the north side of the highway, there's a big undeveloped place there where we could put, the Redmond Parks and Rec Center and a parking lot so people could go down to Klein Falls. That would be a great idea. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Mayor Endicott, Redmond is growing, and population estimates show that trend is not likely to change anytime soon. What does smart growth mean to you?
Well, Lee, that's a true statement. Right now, we're at a little over 30,000. We're destined to grow to about 50,000 by the year 2040. So we're working on our comprehensive plan right now to take a look at how the city should grow. And we've had several town halls. I'm proud to say for the first time in our history, we've had over 700 people participate in that process. So we've gotten quite a bit of input from around the city on how people think we should grow. I mentioned a few minutes ago supply and demand, which is a huge issue. Charles and I differ a little bit on up or out. I mean, I understand both are necessary, it's just the ratios on how you accomplish those. So that is an important issue. If you look at the way Redmond has grown since they started land use laws back in the early 70s, we were lucky enough that we lagged behind Bend in terms of growth. So what you see in Redmond is a lot more rational growth as far as how our streets are laid out, the width of the streets. Charles is right, early on, prior to land use, there weren't some of the sidewalks and width that we need. Of course, now there always is. And we have a very rational transportation layout for the whole community that looks at things like boulevards and collectors and residential streets, so that we have a very well laid out transportation system. We already talked a minute ago about how do we handle affordable housing, but we also try and look at the urban-rural divide and design a way where the city gracefully kind of goes from high density down to low density, so that when you get to the rural areas, that the people that want to live in that kind of a community or that kind of a neighborhood can do so. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, that's all the questions that I have written down on this piece of paper, but do we have some audience questions, Tyler? We do, in fact. And I think you may have to turn that monitor on for us to see those questions. So we'll just wait here patiently, gentlemen, and our producer, as always, is Tyler Neese for Central Oregon Association of Realtors. He does a fantastic job for us back there. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, here's our questions. Okay, we're coming in from the audience now, and we appreciate your questions. If you have some, send them in to us. The question, and we'll begin once again with you, Charles. Can you read that up there?
Yes,
I
yes, I can.
will also state that for the sake of the audience. COVID-19 has been challenging for the community, from schools to jobs lost and more. How will you lead us into and out of this pandemic?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the pandemic is a very, very serious crisis, as we all know, and we all hope that next year this will level out and decline, and hopefully it does. But we also have to realize that it may get worse, and we have to play it safe, and that means masks, that means social distancing, that may mean, unfortunately, that could mean quarantining or shutting down. I believe that Kate Brown, the governor of Oregon, has done a fantastic job in dealing with this pandemic. I think that everything she's done is correct, and I support her, and I will continue to support her. And it's important that we just do all that we can, and I think we are doing all that we can, and we need to continue that. Schools and jobs are going remote, and that's a good thing. I understand parents want their kids back in school, and I understand that. And the kids might want to go back to school too. And I think that the kids will go back to school, and I think the kids will go back to school as soon as the officials feel that it's safe to do so. And when that is, I do not know. And until that time, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baer. Same question to you, Mr. Endicott. COVID-19 has been challenging for the community, from schools to jobs lost and more. How will you lead us into and out of this pandemic?
Well, to be a little glib, I'd like not to lead us into the pandemic.
I was wondering about that question.
I would prefer to lead us out of the pandemic. If you look at what we've done in Redmond so far, you will find, as I mentioned earlier during this broadcast, that we've put out 30,000 sets of PPE around the city. We've talked to several hundred businesses and what their needs are. So we've been addressing the business issue. In terms of influence, I've talked to the governor on many occasions on this subject. In fact, our opponent, who is not here, I was able to get bars and taverns to open along with the restaurants in Redmond. So I was pretty influential in being able to convince the governor that we should allow the tap houses and so forth to open along with the restaurants. The issue is not the name of a business like bar. The issue was people standing at a bar versus sitting at a table. So I told her, I said, if that's the issue, make that the issue. And so she did, which was fortunate for us. So one of the things I'm able to do is influence the state government on how they handle it. So overall for Redmond, we've been doing pretty well, I think. Businesses are struggling. We've lost a few. The last count I had was 4 permanently. I don't know if that's still accurate, but we just need to hold the course, stay the course. I do disagree with Charles a little bit he said parents would like schools open, and maybe the kids I know would like to go to school. All kids learn differently. And so when you look at how children learn, some need that influence, others don't. So thank you very much.
All right. Charles Baer, would you like another minute to continue the discussion on that?
No, thank you.
I'm
All
good,
right.
thanks.
Good, okay. All right, we've got another question from the audience coming up here. I was wondering about that question too, Mayor, about leading us into the pandemic. But I think I understand what the viewer wanted to say of leading us into the beginning of getting out of the pandemic, is the way I read it.
That's right.
Okay. Well, you both answered it very well.
Yeah, thanks.
Now we're just waiting for our second question. If you have questions for Mayor Endicott or Charles Baer, please send them in. And our man, Tyler Neese, will do his best to get them on for you. Once again, you're watching the Central Oregon Association of Realtors candidate forum for Redmond Mayor. And here comes a question. Can you both see that?
Yes.
Okay, I will read it too. Redmond is one of the top performing small cities consistently in the rankings, and the manufacturing sector is a big factor. How can the city continue to support industries like manufacturing and help create more living wage jobs? Charles Baer, 2 minutes.
Well, the city has a large industrial area, which would be east of the train tracks. And so there is, that infrastructure is in place for manufacturing jobs. And I would work to expand that area to the east. And I would work to expand the airport to the east. And I think that Redmond has lots of areas of expansion in all directions. The east, the south, the west. So I would, that's what I do for the manufacturing center. Now, the living wage jobs, that would be manufacturing and other jobs. I think that I'd like to focus on the tech sector in Redmond. I think that, Redmond could be a tech hub like Bend, and will be a tech hub like Bend. And I'd like to move that forward as fast as possible. And I would like to see downtown Redmond rejuvenated. There's lots of empty stores in downtown Redmond, and I think that while people who have empty shops in downtown Redmond are waiting to lease or sell those buildings, I think they should be encouraged to rent or lease those spaces month to month to people who would be able to put in a cafe or an art gallery or something like that on a month-to-month basis, so they don't just sit there empty. Because I think downtown Redmond could be and will be very vibrant once again. Thank you.